Kanahagakura no Sato. Minato sat in his office fighting every cage's worst enemy. Paperwork. Deciding to take a short break, he got out of his seat to turn around and look at the village of Konoha. He smiled as he watched everyone going about their day as usual. That smile disappeared when his eyes landed on a family of 3 having a picnic. Just the mother, father, and son sitting with a basket. This sight cut into Minato's heart. He thought back to when his family's life fell apart. Flashback 1 month after Naruto has left Minato, Kushina, Narumi, Menma and come into the living room of the house after finishing training. You two made some great progress today, so how about I take the whole family to Ichiraku's for ramen, suggested Minato, almost having to cover his ears at the children's response of ramen. He smiled and then thought about the one person missing. Naruto. The two hadn't spent much time together lately, so he decided in that moment that a lunch with the family would be a good start to getting more familiar with his son. Okay, well everyone wait here while I get Naruto, Minato said, shocking Kushina because she too had forgotten him so easily. Meanwhile Menma and Narumi looked at each other then started laughing. Very funny, Dad. That failure's gone, Menma said, laughing while his sister did the same. Minato frowned, as did Kushina. What do you mean gone? Is he at a friend's house? Kushina asked, which only served to make the two laugh harder. Narumi finally calmed down enough to answer her mother. Friends? Who would want to be friends with that loser? He's been gone. Hopefully he's gone for good, she said, smiling. Minato and Kushina shared a look of horror before Minato flashed out of the house and into his office, where he called for a search for his son done by his best Anbu. After 3 months, he was forced to call off the search. End flashback. Minato realized how bad he had neglected Naruto but couldn't do much, so he entrusted the search to his sensei Jiraiya, who held regret in his heart as well. When word made it around the village, the overall feeling was regret and sadness because they never took the time to even notice the Hokage's firstborn. Kushina took it hardest. Ever since he left, she lost her happy, joyful demeanor. She continued to train her children, but they were forbidden from bad-mouthing Naruto. She slept in Naruto's room every night, crying herself to sleep. During the training of their 2 remaining children, Minato and Kushina began to see exactly who their children were. They were arrogant, as everywhere they went, they flashed their name and demanded what they wanted. They were selfish, as they never even tried to help others in need. After discovering this, Minato and Kushina realized what a horrible mistake it had been to take being clan heir away from their son. With that, they promised that when Naruto returned, they would treat him the way he should have been treated. Respect and love that every child deserved from their parent. His thoughts were interrupted by the sound of knocking. Getting back in his seat, he announced that whoever wished to enter may do it now. His jaw dropped when one of his chunin entered with the boy who had been clouding his thoughts since he realized he left. His son. Naruto. Lord Hokage, this boy claims that he wishes to join our village and wished to speak with you, the chunin explained, earning a glare from Naruto for his boy comment. Minato quickly nodded. Thank you. You may go now and tell my secretary that we are not to be disturbed, he ordered, never taking his eyes off of his son. When the chunin left, Minato immediately went to Naruto to hug him but was stopped when he held up a hand, halting him. I'm afraid that I must ask that we keep this meeting professional and brief, Lord Hokage, Naruto said coldly, causing Minato to flinch and his heart to break a little. He nodded sadly and motioned for Naruto to take a seat. As Minato looked over his son, he realized how tall he was and how mature he looked. Naruto was the spitting image of his father. Naruto was wearing a black sleeveless shirt with dark blue pants, black fingerless gloves and black boots. Both seated, Minato asked the question that had been on his mind for the past year and a half. Naruto, where have you been, son? He asked. Naruto stiffened before responding. I have been training in the forests of Fire Country and believe that I am ready to take the Genin exams with this year's class. While I do not know any jutsu except for the Shadow Clone Jutsu, the Transformation Jutsu, and the Substitution Jutsu, my other skills should put me well above qualified to take and pass the test, he said. Naruto had decided that while he wouldn't hide his skills, he wouldn't brag or explain them unless prompted to do so. Minato furrowed his brow when he heard Naruto's explanation. Are you sure, son? The class that will be graduating this year is mainly composed of clan heirs, so it might be difficult to pass, and there's also the fact that you've received no formal training. Minato stopped when Naruto leveled a cold glare at him. While I appreciate your concern, Lord Hokage, I assure you that I will pass regardless of my opposition, he spat. Minato sighed. Maybe he should let his son take the test. After all, the worst that could happen is that he wouldn't pass. Making his decision, he nodded and told him that he would see to it that Naruto was allowed to take the genin exam and that the academy would actually begin in a few minutes. Minato wrote on a piece of paper and handed it to Naruto, telling him that it would get him in for the exam. He also suggested that the two walk together, but Naruto quickly declined before getting up and making his way to the academy. Minato sighed sadly, but quickly smiled. His son was back, and no matter how long it took, he would get him back. Konoha Ninja Academy. Iruka Umino was giving a speech to his students before he started the genin exam when a blonde boy walked in, handing him a note from the Hokage himself. He was too busy reading the note to look at who had given it to him. After reading the note, Iruka's eyes went wide before looking at the boy who had taken his seat in the back corner of the room away from everyone else. "Okay, class, we have someone who will be taking the exam with us today. Everyone welcome Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze," he said before Kune flew near and cut his cheek. "Just Naruto will do," Naruto said with no emotion. After this display, everyone was watching him, two children in particular. Narumi and Menma Uzumaki Namikaze were fuming that the worthless nobody of a brother was back. "Iruka-sensei, why does he get special treatment?" whined a boy named Kiba, who obviously thought it was not fair that he had to sit through Iruka's boring lectures for years, but this kid comes in and gets to take the genin test without such torture. "Naruto has a note from the Hokage himself allowing it, so be quiet, Kiba. Now the exam has 3 parts which will be tested through taijutsu matches, ninjutsu demonstration, and the paper test you are receiving now," explained Iruka while his assistant Mizuki finished handing out the last of the exams. "Now that everyone has their test, begin," shouted Iruka. It took Naruto 10 minutes to complete the pitiful excuse of an exam, and he was forced to wait for another 50 minutes while everyone else finished before they were let outside. The academy training ground had a wooden board that ranked the students and who was best at taijutsu. Naruto scanned the board and was surprised to see that his idiot siblings held the top spots. Naruto was brought out of his thoughts when Iruka asked for volunteers to begin the taijutsu portion. Menma quickly volunteered, but not before issuing a challenge. "I want to fight Naruto." Maybe then he'll realize how pathetic he really is, all the while smirking while the rest of the students quickly agreed. "Naruto, do you accept Menma as your competitor?" Iruka asked, gaining a short nod in response. As Naruto and Menma entered the ring, Naruto knew what would happen. Today, he would humiliate his brother in front of all of his friends. Today, he would show Menma how much of a child he truly was in this adult world. When Iruka gave the signal, Menma quickly started attacking Naruto, thinking it would be over quick. His confidence quickly died after his pathetic brother dodged his strike. Then the next, and the next, and the next. Finally, Naruto had enough. He dodged one last punch by simply moving to the side and quickly planted his fist in Menma's stomach, raising him off the ground. With Menma still on his arm, Naruto spoke. Years of training from 2 of the famous Sennin, the last Uzumaki from Whirlpool, and perhaps the most powerful Hokage in Konoha history, and this is what you have to offer? I must say that I am thoroughly disappointed, especially since you are supposed to be the best in your class at taijutsu. Well, it's my turn now, but don't worry, I'll make it quick, Naruto said coldly before throwing him 10 feet off the ground. When Menma started falling and reached about 3 feet from the ground, Naruto swung his leg right into the side of his head, sending him flying into a nearby tree. Everyone was at a loss for words. The son of the Hokage had just been destroyed by the clan reject. Iruka quickly declared Naruto the winner and told Mizuki to take Menma to the hospital. As the matches went on, Iruka couldn't stop thinking about Naruto. He had been playing with Menma the whole time, and Iruka could see that Naruto hadn't even tried. 3 moves and Menma was out, and he knew that the kick Naruto used was not even half of the strength that he could have used. That type of power in someone so young scared Iruka, but not as much as the dead look in Naruto's eyes throughout the match. Eventually the taijutsu matches were over and the students were led back into the classroom. No one spoke. The way that Naruto had finished Menma like he was nothing was more than a little unnerving and made everyone keep their distance. As they all sat down and waited for their names to be called for the next demonstration, no one spoke. Naruto's name was the first one called. Naruto calmly rose from his seat and followed Iruka into the next room. "Okay, Naruto, I need you to make 3 clones. Use the substitution jutsu, and use the transformation jutsu," Iruka stated somewhat nervously. Naruto just rolled his eyes and began. Making 3 shadow clones, substituting himself with a nearby chair, and transforming into Iruka. He took his headband, ignoring the congratulations of Iruka.